My name is Steve Zeltzer. I'm with the Stop Workplace Bullying Group and United Public Workers. And the reason we're having this press conference here today is to address the serious issue that's going on in the city of San Francisco and other public agencies as well, and that is the bullying and harassment of workers, public workers who are being harassed on the job and bullied, and in some cases they're being bullied because they're whistleblowers, and they're trying to basically stop malfeasance and corruption in the city and county of San Francisco. And we have a number of speakers who are going to talk about it because the issue of bullying of whistleblowers is a serious question, and it's a health issue for the city. There are many city workers who've been bullied and harassed and have had to go off on stress and disability. And died. Workers have committed suicide. This is a serious health issue. It has to be addressed by the public, and it's also costing the city and county of San Francisco millions of dollars in lost time and in an unbelievable number of settlements for illegal activity as far as retaliation for whistleblowing. So our first speaker is with Grupo Presente, and you're going to speak. Introduce yourself.
My time. My name is Mercedes Monroy. I worked for the city for about 29 years. We have a group of Presente, have employees, city employees who, throughout different departments, who have also been through bullying, have been out on disability, long-term disability, workers' comp, you can call it. Myself, I've gone through it process, and at the end I ended up being forced out from my job. And the bad thing about being forced out in your job in early retirement is that you don't qualify for Social Security. So I'm here stuck with just a pension and having to figure out what to do, and as wondering why I got forced out when I was doing a good job. And a number of the people who want to do the right thing and try to say the right thing about what things are happening in their departments then become the targets. And there was a whistleblower program here for the city who's supposed to be protecting those people from retaliation, but one way or the other they get around it, force you out through unemployment, through layoffs. All of a sudden you're a poor performer, and then you can start to being bounced from department to department until you're actually out. This has been a long thing for us. We actually pushed for an ordinance called mobbing ordinance back in 2007 under the previous supervisor, Gerardo Sandoval, and it did not go anywhere. We were told that this would be covered under the Discrimination Act, but not everybody falls into discrimination, and bullying is all colors and all races. So we are here again trying to push this through, get some teeth on some ordinance or legislation so that we can finally clean up what needs to be cleaned up, because people who are trying to do the right thing shouldn't be the ones to be the victims in this situation. And I'd like to pass this on to...
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mercedes. These incidents of bullying have been going on for years, many years. And as Mercedes says, many senior employees in San Francisco are being harassed and targeted to get them out of their jobs, both for whistleblowing, because they know their jobs. That's one of the reasons they're going after them. They actually know their jobs, and they're conscientious, and they're doing the right thing. And that is unacceptable. How can conscientious public employees being harassed for doing their job? It sounds crazy, and it is crazy. If you do your job, you're in trouble, it seems, in San Francisco, in the city and county of San Francisco. So our next speaker is Dr. Derrick Kerr. And Dr. Kerr had just received a $750,000 settlement for illegal retaliation and discharge, and he has taken up this campaign not over the issue of money, but the issue of changing the situation in San Francisco so that it doesn't happen again. Welcome, Dr. Kerr.
Thank you. So the problem is really entrenched dishonesty. Entrenched dishonesty within various city departments. Ours was the Department of Public Health. When you point out misconduct or wrongdoing, it gets ignored, and if you keep pointing it out, then you get retaliation. The people who retaliate do not lose their jobs and they do not get reprimanded because their bosses seem to tolerate that kind of incompetence and dishonesty. So we're really questioning the leadership at the health director level and the health commission level. There is a financial impact on the taxpayers, $750,000, that's right out of the taxpayer's pocket. There's all kinds of other costs. The city attorney fees are not included. There's mediation costs, there's sick time. All of that makes it over $1 million. And then the people who retaliated spent 3 months orchestrating it. They planned it, and they were on city time. So they were being paid to plan a retaliation, which failed, and which cost the city even more. So this is a problem, and we're trying to draw attention to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. And I next want to introduce Dr. Maria Rivero, who also was working at Laguna Honda Hospital. They're professionals, health professionals, and who also was bullied because of her speaking up against the corruption at Laguna Honda Hospital. And the fact that the bullies and the people who are conducting the financial malfeasance are still employed by the city and county of San Francisco. How could that be? Now, if this was a regular rank-and-file worker who had stolen money or misused money, what would happen to that person?
They'd be hired.
Probably they'd be taken off the job, and the district attorney would be filing charges, and that person would be going to jail. That's what would be happening to that person. If a rank-and-file city worker did this, they would be going to jail. Yet when management does it, it seems that they're above the law, and that's something we have to change. So welcome, Dr. Rivero.
Hi, everyone. I worked for Laguna Honda Hospital for 22 years, and then we became whistleblowers. We blew the whistle on the executives at Laguna Honda pilfering a fund that was being used for donations for patients so that patients could have quality of life. And after that happened, even though at one time I had been medical director of Laguna Honda, I became bullied, I was harassed. The deputy city attorney at Laguna Honda threatened me with a firing offense, and eventually I was pushed out and had to leave. However, the executive who did the retaliation is still employed. She's still on the public payroll. She's cost the public over $1 million if you include legal fees, and that just isn't right. So we're asking that people speak out against executives who bully and harass and retaliate against whistleblowers who are just trying to do the right thing for their department. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the problems, this is not just in a single department. It's not just in the Department of Public Health. It's in many departments in the San Francisco, including the Housing Authority. And we have Eva Labar here, who's the attorney for 2 lawyers who were whistleblowers, and as a result of that, they were bullied out of, harassed by Henry Alvarez, the former director. Now, why, it turns out, and he'll explain, that these 2 lawyers who were the whistleblowers have now been laid off by the assistant director, who is now the acting director and was appointed by Henry Alvarez, and the mayor of San Francisco, Ed Lee, actually personally brought in Henry Alvarez, knowing that he had actually threatened to strangle a city worker. So we're asking, what in God's is going on? That the mayor would bring in a person who's been accused of strangling a city worker. Is this good practices? Is this good personnel practices? And what does it mean about the health and safety of the city workers and the public? Welcome, Evo.
As I said, I'm the attorney for Tim Larson, who was the 3rd attorney in rank at the Housing Authority. He was responsible for not just legal issues, but also security, had roles in procurement and other issues. He endured daily threats and harassment from Mr. Alvarez for nearly 4 years. Finally, enough was enough when he complained about Mr. Alvarez steering contracts to his preferred friends. He was investigated and threatened with termination. He eventually went on stress leave and was eventually laid off by the Housing Authority, purportedly due to budget cutbacks, but in reality it was to retaliate against him for his whistleblowing. Unfortunately, Mr. Alvarez was allowed to keep his payroll over $200,000 a year, and until his contract expires later this year. But he gets paid while his city workers who blew the whistle get fired. We have a trial date. We have a trial date next April, and we're going to make sure that all of this practices come to light, and the public sees what actually goes on at the Housing Authority. And through this trial, he will get his vindication. Thank you.
Thank you. It's very important that the public be aware that public workers are trying to do their jobs in San Francisco. They're trying to protect the city and the county of San Francisco, and they have a right to have respect. They have a right to be protected from harassment and bullying when they do their jobs, and that's precisely what's going on. So our next speaker is Sylvia Lynch, and she's with the Grupo Presente as well. So welcome, Sylvia Lynch, and she's taken up the fight against bullying in San Francisco for city employees. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak before you. There is something inherently wrong with our government, the mayor, and the board of supervisors who do not hold these department heads accountable. Why is it that Alvarez was fired after he fired 2 attorneys? Are 2 attorneys worth more money than 2 dedicated, wonderfully compassionate doctors who served 21 years at Laguna Honda, yet Laguna Honda's director is still employed? What is the difference? Are the elderly not as valuable as the people in the housing authority complexes? What's the question here? Why is the mayor not firing the director of Laguna Honda? These 2 doctors did the same thing as the 2 lawyers. They whistle blew. They would not go along with the corruption. This is a systemic issue with the city. It's who you know, not what you know. And this is not only your tax dollars are wasted by this practice, civil service has been disseminated by the continued hiring of exempt employees that make this whole thing possible. And who pushed that agenda? Willie Brown, Gavin Newsom, and now Edwin Lee. So let's make sure to hold your civic leaders accountable. Go to the Board of Supervisors, go to the mayor, ask the hard questions. Why is the corruption not being cleaned up? These are your tax dollars that are being wasted. Thank you.
All right, Sylvia.
Thank you, Sylvia. And this is an epidemic, actually. The fact of the matter is it's a national epidemic. It's not just in San Francisco. It's not just in the city of Richmond. It's throughout the country. And we have with us a national expert, one of the leading national experts on workplace bullying, Dr. Gary Nami, with the Workplace Bullying Institute. Welcome, Dr. Nami.
Yay, Dr. Nami. Thank you. I'm here to support every one of the workers who's done nothing more than ask to be left alone to do their jobs. That's all good workers want to do. They've got these bumbling, fumbling executives who are covering up these abusers who are on the payroll. Right. Workplace bullying is nothing more than domestic violence where the abuser is on the payroll and it's the abuser who is incompetent. And I see SEIU purple colors here and other unions represented. This is part of a national movement, in a sense, by these incompetents to bust public sector unions. It's one of the few bastions of union protection left for workers. You take out the skilled and the talented, you try and portray those who have been terminated and banished as incompetent, when in fact it's the buffoons who prop up the incompetents who need to be banished. That's right. I support everything they say. This is no bullying would exist if the employer, in this case, elected officials, did not support it. They can claim they don't know it, know about it, but they're fools. 54 million Americans are experiencing verbal abuse, intimidation, threats, humiliation. You don't hear about it because they're the good people like Dr. Kerr who get banished. They're not around to tell the tales, except they made a mistake with Kerr. He'll never be silenced. And that's the point. Right. and he's going to hound them into their own grave because they've ignored this. They could have just managed the place. There are too many of us. We started this movement in Benicia. This is a Bay Area-born U.S. movement, and I'm telling you, it's here to stay. We're going to get a state law that's going to scare the bejesus out of these clowns. You would think they'd scare easily, but when they're spending other people's money, our money, they're really loose with it. He deserves more than $750,000. That's a drop in the bucket. They stole from the elderly. These people are shameless, and they're driving out the competent workers. Crazy making, as Steve said, it's an upside-down world. The soul of the earth are the ones that are suffering. It's wrong. And they suffer with stress. They suffer with hypertension, cardiovascular disease. They'll keel over with cardiac arrest. They've got all kinds of stress-related diseases that are shortening their lives. For what? Because they were unfortunate enough to work under a buffoon? No, it's not right. All people wanted it to be done to them was to be left alone to do their jobs. That's what we hear by the thousands. That's all people say. They want justice. Funny thing, America seems to have lost its moral compass. Where is the justice anymore? Why do we say unions are bad? We cannot, as Americans, turn on each other. They're the liars, not us. Thank you much. I'm here to support. If you want to hear more, I don't know. Steve's got it arranged. Bamboozled me into doing something here at noon in room, what is it? 278. Join us at 278. We'll give you a tutorial on this, look at some of the statistics, and hear the pain. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is not going to go away without a real organized campaign. And one of the things that bullies do is they try to keep people alone, isolated. Yes. So that they're afraid, and they're afraid of being fired, they're afraid of being retaliated against. And what we're saying is one of the things that workers, the public workers, and all workers have to do is stand up for their rights. We have to confront the bullies. We have to confront the bullies and say, no, bullying is not tolerated. Bullying is not tolerated.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning. My name is Beatrice Cardenas-Duncan. I'm a retiree. I retired due to illness. I have leukemia. And one of the things that I have encountered is the fact that this management, this administration condones the kind of bullying. These managers, directors of departments, they hide behind the thin veil that every politician is going to defend them. And they can easily go to their politicians and present their own view. And yet we as workers continue to be mistreated, continue to be disrespected to the lowest of the lowest level. We do not deserve this. Politicians need to take notice. We have to go and hire private attorneys. Yet these culprits, they are defended by the city attorney's office, the man that spends millions of dollars in defending perpetrators of abuse of our workers. We cannot sit back and be quiet. Yes, we are threatened with our jobs and we become silent. And like Steve said, we suffer illnesses that can never be recuperated. It's time for us to speak out. It's time to hold these politicians that defend these culprits because of their political alignment. It has to stop because they can go to their fundraisers and pay $1,000, $2,000 so they know that they feel safe. And we as senior citizens, as retirees that were forced to retire because of this behavior cannot be tolerated, and then we'll not tolerate it. We'll hit the streets. We'll expose what is going on in Route 200. We will expose what's going on through civil service. We will expose everything that has been done to us. We will no longer remain silent. Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Thank you. Our next speaker is Terry with the Department of Public Health. He is a whistleblower about the situation of his patients and how they were being treated. And I want the public to know that this issue is how the public is being treated. It's not just about the public worker, it's about how the public is paid millions of dollars for public services in San Francisco, yet whistleblowers who stand up and say we've got to treat our clients, our patients correctly, they're the ones that get bullied and harassed. That has to stop.
My name is James Killis-Terry, and I work at the Behavioral Health Center at San Francisco General Hospital and Trauma Center. A year ago, my employer and I agreed to allow an arbitrator to decide my fate with a wrongful termination. That is a lie.
Yes.
The city and the county is not abiding by the arbitrator's decision. He ruled in my favor for me to go back to work with full payment, full benefits, and to be made whole. I am back to work, but I am being harassed, I'm being retaliated against, and I am being bullied by my superiors. My integrity is...
They're not superior.
Thank you. I misspoke.
Yes, you did.
My integrity is continuously questioned. I am continuously called a liar. I have become invisible. I am ignored as if I do not exist. I am no longer a member of the multidisciplinary team. I am just there. On March 3rd, I complained to Dr. Chin and Sharon McCole-Witcher concerning how Dr. Geiser, a psychiatrist at the Behavioral Health Center, spoke to me in a condescending, hostile, and disrespectful manner, and that I felt bullied by him. I described how and what I was feeling. I was informed by Dr. Chin that she had to do an investigation of my allegations. I was puzzled as to she had to investigate my allegations on how I was feeling. When spoken to by a bully, Dr. Geiser and Dr. Chin got back to me. She found out that she stated that I was wrong, and Dr. Geiser did nothing wrong. I am not surprised, but I am not the only staff member that has complained about Dr. Geiser, the psychiatrist, being a bully. I am a service-connected disabled veteran with a spinal cord injury and a total knee replacement. I was told last week that I can no longer use my cane intermittently at the facility. After 10 years of using my cane, all of a sudden I can no longer use it. Okay? So these are the type of retaliations that is happening. One last thing. 8 years ago, residents were coming and complaining about their feet. I took a look and noticed that they had a lot of fungus under the nails, calluses, just very, very... Anyway, the San Francisco General has no podiatry. Do you believe that? Absolutely no podiatry. So these residents had no way of getting their feet done. I took it upon myself, took my funds, went out and bought nail kits, everything, massages, foot massages, two, and start doing the residents' feet, and tea tree oil to put underneath the nails for the fungus. Also last week, coincidentally, they decided that I was in violation of some policy. They tried to terminate me again. They did an investigation. I have not heard anything. I was working with a doctor, Dr. Vollmer, who I'm quite sure stood up and said that I was consulting with her. But no one else wanted to do this. No one. I took it upon myself to do it, and now they're trying to terminate me again. I don't know what the status is. She hasn't gotten back to me yet. But this is type of behavior that goes on. They persecute, they complain, they look and scrutinize everything you do, looking for you to have done something or said something wrong, and then they pounce. This should stop. This is not okay. I want to do my job. Either they're trying to force me out or they're trying to fire me. I don't know which. I'm not going anywhere. So, but evidently they're going to have to fire me. Okay?
No way.
Thank you. I'm glad I have friends like Steve and some of the Brenda that's going to be there with me.
Reached out to the labor movement. There's going to be a Workers' Memorial Day on April 28th at ILW Local 34, 6 p.m., where workers were injured. And what is happening in California nationally is that the issue of Bullying is affecting the workforce. People are getting sick in this country from being bullied on the job, and they end up going on disability, state disability, and some become permanently disabled and they go on Social Security. This is cost shifting because the insurance company and these employers need to treat the workers properly so that they can do their job and they're not harassed and bullied and end up having to go to the hospital to be taken care of. And you would think that in a hospital, the workers who work in a hospital would themselves be treated properly and not bullied. But in fact, bullying is even going on in hospitals. And we had a radio program this morning on KPFA about the bullying at San Francisco General, and Brenda Barrows, who's an elected shop steward of SEIU 1021, has been leading the fight to educate the members about bullying and taking action against bullies.
What brought me to this fight was employees coming to me from all over the city with issues that weren't related to the actual work they were doing, but related to their treatment on the job. People suffering from mob bullying, where they come into a new department and maybe the 20 people that work there already don't like you, and then they become a target. And then they become the manager's target because those 20 people don't like them. And then they end up leaving or being fired. I've seen this happen over and over and over again, and it's time for it to stop. So my main reason is to send a message out to all of the employees. When you see this bullying, do not let it go. All of us have been around, and people tell me all the time, well, yeah, I saw it happening. And my question to them is, okay, you saw it happening, so what did you do? The bottom line is we cannot allow this to happen in our workplace anymore. And for those of us who are regular employees who are the bullies, you need to stop.
Yes.
Because you're not going to continue to get away with it. So the best thing for you to do is stop now and join us on this thing to make a better workplace.
That's right.
That's safe for all of us, that's safe for the people we take care of at San Francisco General and everywhere else all over the city.
That's it.
But will also make it better for yourself, because you don't want to be in a position of being bullied. It may not have happened to you today, but that doesn't mean next week it won't. Nobody's exempt. It can happen to any one of us at any time, any place, from anyone, even within the union movement. It happens. So I hope the unions jump on board. You know, I've been watching my union people walk by here. They didn't stop. They should be out here with us.
Yes.
Yes.
And so what I'm going to do is push within my union that they take this issue seriously. When we had our last bargaining, I got us some language on the ballot that said, in our contract, that says any other illegal form of harassment. And bullying is a legal form of harassment. And what we're calling on the unions to do is to start filing grievances for it. To stop pushing it under the rug or saying, oh, that's, you know how Sally is, it's okay, let it go. We cannot let it go anymore. This is it for me. If somebody reports it to me, then I'm going to be pushing on it. And I'm putting my neck on the line. I know about my boss. I'm in a better position than a lot of people because I've been there 30 years, and I'm almost to the point to where I can retire if it gets too bad. But I said before I leave, I'm going to work on my work site to make sure that the people that I leave behind when I retire have a safe, productive work site free of harassment, bullying, and discrimination.
Yeah! Thank you, one of the other, this is a campaign, a statewide campaign, and we hope to have legislation around the issue of bullying in the workplace. It is an epidemic, and it's costing the state and the public millions of dollars. And Carrie Clark, who came down from Sacramento, is a leader in this campaign statewide, and we are supporting that. We're going to be discussing it with people this afternoon at 12, because we want to educate the people of San Francisco that Carrie was a teacher who was bullied. And there is an epidemic of teachers blaming teachers, harassing and bullying teachers. And in fact, the principal of the school, the Martin Luther King School, is being investigated by the district attorney for bullying teachers, threatening teachers, and yet there's no action being taken. We say, get your hands off the teachers, let the teachers teach, stop the bullying of teachers and education workers. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you very much. I stood up to a corrupt California school superintendent, and I took the hits and I got knocked down. 7 years later, I was awarded compensation money, which was chump change compared to my career. This man was ripping off minority children. He was ripping off soft money federal funds, and nothing happened to him, but he was sent to his office to find a new job. 5 years later, 3 members of the Board of Education apologized to me and said they could do nothing because they didn't have a legal leg to stand on. Well, they still wouldn't, because work abuse is legal in California as long as you're not doing it because of discrimination. Well, I'm here to tell you that the good taxpayers that are filing their taxes today, the creak and cronk and carry on about federal taxes, don't think about the fact that it's at the state and the local level. We are hemorrhaging money because we are looking the other way, and we are allowing harassment to go on unchecked in our workplace. It's destroying our families. It's destroying the workplace. I have a financial advisor who just left her job. In 2 years, a workplace bully drove out 40 people, 40 good people. Turnover, and yet management continues to look the other way. It's disgusting. It's a shame. We have a bully culture in this nation. Gary Namey and I lobbied a bill in California to make workplace bullying illegal. In 2003, we were doing great, and then the public of California elected a known bully to be the governor, and that bill fell out of committee. I worked with Amy Locke on a whistleblower committee, that bill that was put out by Senator Yee, and what happened? They ditched the bill because they wanted to cover up the identity of the perpetrators. And in the meantime, the little people that stand up, the little people are the ones that get knocked down. It was little people that said Bell, California was giving all kinds of money to a city manager that shouldn't have had it. It's the little people that see it first. And we are not protecting the little people. And who are the little people? Us! It's us! And we are so retarded in this nation because we continue to cover up, we continue to lie, we continue to use public money to protect these jerks. When are we going to grow up and act like the people we claim to be the greatest country in the world, and yet we diss each other constantly?
That's right.
This is sickening, and we need to change. We need laws. And I hear the business community say, we don't want one more lawsuit in the workplace. Well, people, they're already out there. And they're out there in other forms. And they are making us sick. They are ruining us. We are rotting from the inside out. I worked in 2007 on the policy that this city wrote to stop workplace abuse. They called it mobbing, and what happened? Oh, they wrote a policy. They probably put a plaque on the wall. Was there any repercussion for the perpetrators? No! No, the perpetrators just go right on. Do they follow that policy? No! What the hell's the matter with them?
Stupid!
They're stupid.
Corruption.
It's corruption. And they want to continue to cover up corruption. And what did the governor of the state of California do to workers' comp? Well, when you're under attack, you got headaches. You don't sleep. You vomit on the way to work. And that's stress. And now you can't file a workers' comp claim for that. Well, go figure. So you got to figure out how bad your back works. And back hurts, and then you go file a claim for that. We really need to change this because it's making us very, very sick.
We're tired of begging.
We've got people up and down the state of California that come constantly to the website for California Healthy Workplace Advocates. And they often, a third of them are whistleblowers. Whistleblowers. Well, I'm a whistleblower, and I am really proud of myself. I can look at my face in the mirror in the morning. I don't know what David Miller can do. I held out 7 years for no hush clause, and these hush clauses causes have got to be stopped. When it's public money, no hush clause.
We're going to conduct this campaign. This is an education campaign to protect the people who work for San Francisco, who are conscientious and want to do their jobs. And they want to do their jobs without being threatened and retaliated against. Our next speaker is Sarah Larson, and Sarah is a whistleblower, and she's taken up a fight among public workers and also in her union to get some justice. For our unions have to take up this campaign. We pay union dues, and we want unions that represent us so we have a health and safety workplace. Welcome, Sarah Larson.
I just wanted to comment that Henry Alvarez is the tip of the iceberg. He was hired because he was a bully. The people who have blown the whistle on him have been fired. Whistleblowers are very important to our government, to keep our government honest and to keep our government clean. When you have a pattern of firing whistleblowers and promoting the perpetrators of waste and corruption and malfeasance, that's bad government, and it's bad for San Francisco. People need to wake up.
Yes, I know. Just put yours on.
Okay, one of the things that we're saying here is that this is not just a San Francisco problem. Dr. Amy Block-Joy, who's a professor at UC Davis, was a professor there who was a whistleblower, and she was bullied as well. She was a University of California employer, and she wrote a book on the issue of bullying. So welcome, Amy.
Thank you. I'm very proud to be with you all. I've been alone for so long. Thank you for coming out and speaking out today. So in my case, I'm a faculty member at the University of California, 28-year career member from the university, and a director of a program for food stamp families. Well, I discovered embezzlement in the food stamp money, and I thought the right thing to do was to tell the university and alert the officials to this embezzlement. Well, the next thing I know is I'm being retaliated against. The embezzler actually did go to prison 4 years later, but I spent 4 years being investigated, being bullied, my office was ransacked, my mail was tampered with, I was pushed and shoved in the hallway, I was isolated and alone. I was given a notice and served at my home that I was under investigation. 3 times my rights were trampled on. And in fact, in the end, my retaliation complaint was substantiated. The one thing I learned was, if you have retaliation, there must be corruption. Because if people are making mistakes and taking money, you're going to send them to jail. You're not going to deal with retaliation. Why would you? Why would you waste the time to do that? The only reason there's retaliation is because the people above you are involved. And that turned out to be true in my case because it was the chair of my department who was involved with the embezzler. And a case that was $1,500 of a DVD camcorder turned into $2.3 million of loss to the university.
Thieves!
And this was shoved aside. They didn't want it in the newspaper. They told me I couldn't talk about it. And in fact, with my settlement, I refused to sign a confidentiality agreement.
Good.
And I wrote a book about it.
Yay!
So thank you all. I'm glad to join with you and to find some support.
Welcome, Vivian.
Okay. Can you imagine what it would be like to appreciate workers? Workers who are capable of enhancing city services. Can you imagine being supportive of competence instead of threatened by it? No. Can you imagine respect and decency in the workplace? No. If you can imagine that, I wish I had worked for you.
Thank you.
Everything Vivian says is true if you're in Scandinavia. So I don't want to hear any more talk about this being the greatest nation. Oh, we're number one. We're the only nation of the industrialized countries to not even address this topic by law. That's the power of the Chamber of Commerce. That's the power of employers and the weakness of employees, the healthy disrespect for employees. So your dream is alive and well, not here. Not here, not yet. But this group ain't gonna let it rest.
Thank you, Dr. Hamby. Now, another group that was bullied in San Francisco was the planners in the San Francisco Planning Department. There was a scandal. It was the mayor of San Francisco, Gavin Newsom, who was sleeping with his aide's wife, who was a city employee. They allowed her to get off on sick pay illegally. And what did they do? They found some emails in the planning department that were going around. They said they were pornographic. And lo and behold, they targeted the senior employees. Those were the only ones that got fired. The senior employees got fired for what other people had been doing. Why were they targeting the senior employees in the planning department? They were targeting the senior employees in the planning department because those are the people who know their business of planning, who aren't going to bend and be a rubber stamp for the developers in San Francisco. They were harassed out. 5 planners, senior planners, were fired illegally because of basically the corruption in the planning department. What we are saying is the most responsible, the most conscientious, the most skilled city employees are the ones that are being targeted.
Yes.
They're the ones that are being harassed. The ones who do their jobs are the ones that are in trouble in San Francisco. This is wrong. It has to stop. And we say behind the bullying of employees is corruption and dishonesty among city officials. That's really an incompetence. That's really what's going on here. It's not an accident, and there's a connection. There's a connection between bullying and cover-up of malfeasance, bullying and corruption, because the people who try to do their jobs, they have become the targets. The people that are conscientious, they become the targets. This has to stop, and Mayor Ed Lee, we are telling you and the Board of Supervisors, we hold you responsible, personally responsible, because, for example, in the Metropolitan Transit Agency, they were bullying transit workers who were making OSHA complaints about the safety of the buses. We told Mayor Ed Lee, Dorian Maxwell was bullied out of his job, fired illegally. He got a labor commissioner order to order him back to work. They're still refusing to take him back to work. So the people who are protecting our health and safety in San Francisco, the bus drivers, they have been bullied by Mayor Newsom, by Ed Lee. When you fire somebody for going to Cal OSHA, that should be illegal. It should be a crime. People should go to jail for that because they're protecting the health and safety of the public, yet it's going on in San Francisco. People who make health and safety complaints are being fired, which is illegal. So there needs to be accountability, there needs to be justice, and we are going to make that certain that it happens, because you can't hide anymore. We're saying that these bullies are not going to be able to hide. Whether General Hospital, Department of Public Health, the MDA, the Housing Authority, we say enough is enough. On tax day, stop paying out millions of dollars to bullies. Do your job and don't violate the rules of San Francisco and the rules of a health and safety environment for all working people.